Yo, my sovereigns, what up? This is Boba Fett, uncensored on the internet, with episode 163 of Splinterlands 101. Joining us tonight so far, it's just the Matt Clark, finest gentleman who ever lived, chairman of the Dow. We'll see if we have anyone pop on during the show, but so far it's just us. But yeah,
howdy.
Let's make this happen anyway.
Yeah, let's do it. It is difficult across so many time zones to work out who's available when. But yes, all going swimmingly. We had a great town hall. There's a lot of excitement in the air. I think hearing from Andrew about the marketing direction and push, and I think just the mindfulness and deliberateness with which this is being done. We've had some stuff in the past, but it's struggled to maybe translate into new users, new players, and I think there's a bit of a vibe. There's a feeling that this is going to be a more surgical approach to targeting and getting that feedback. What's working, what's not working. It's definitely worth having a watch of the town hall. It did go on quite a way. There was so much to cover that it was sort of ended up being about 2.5 hours. But 2.5 hours, very, very well spent if you have the time. So, yeah, get amongst it. It's always great to hear from the team. Obviously, the town halls are less frequent now, so they're fewer and further between. They tend to have a lot of content to cover. So, yeah, all going well.
And SPS has responded well also.
I haven't checked the price of SPS
today.
It's
back over 7. It's 74 last time I checked.
Nice. I'm hearing around the traps too that there are quite a few Aussies who are trying to get some exposure to USD through HBD, considering the smart moves that the US economy is making. Things like cutting all that waste. You're cutting $2 trillion of waste that should theoretically do wonders for the US dollar. And so Australia is not showing anywhere near that kind of level of financial discipline. So there are a lot of Aussies sort of looking for the exits and trying to work out I've got my bag of Aussie dollars here. How do I turn that into US dollars or HBD to sit out the first and maybe even second Republican term and see how strong the greenback can really get against the Aussie dollar, and how we can make 15% just sitting there instead of whatever the Reserve Bank says Australia's current interest rate is, especially if the cuts continue. It just seems like a bit of a no-brainer. So I'm hearing around the traps that there's some Aussies looking to put not unsubstantial amounts of Aussie dollars into HBD, but obviously there's some well surveilled and controlled on-ramps and off-ramps that need to be considered and all of that. So this again, community building. I'll keep hounding on this, but you need to build a community in your city. People that know each other, trust each other. If you don't want to go through some heavily surveilled, centralized, controlled mechanism, you just rock up at the monthly meetup. You got $100. I got $100 worth of this stuff. We just do it right in person. It's done. It's complete. There's no delay. It's 3 seconds. Right. You're there at the same time. Have a beer. Have a catch up. Get it done. And then, next month, maybe you don't do anything for a couple of months, but you need to have those monthly meetups. You need to know each other.
Yeah. I mean, that's how it was done in the beginning before a centralized committee stepped in to be the middleman to do it all for us.
Yes, of course. And that's the same. Look, that's just human nature, right? You look at the history of Catholicism, right? It's the whole, okay, you can just talk directly to God, and actually no, you need priests, and you need all these layers, and then Martin Luther comes along and says, actually no, we don't need all, and then over time it still just builds back. People just find a way to wedge themselves in, right?
Yeah,
wedge themselves in and become crucial in the process. And we're seeing that with Doge going through and saying, "What, you people aren't necessary. You're not contributing. You're not actually. We're not getting bang for our buck." So the cuts are deep, and hopefully we'll just continue. It seems to be that way. I'm assuming Trump's doing 4D chess, and there's things like the NSA, right, for example, which as far as I know hasn't been touched at all. when Edward Snowden is sitting down for dinner at the White House, then I'll believe that we're, actually starting to look after, that they're actually really starting to take this seriously and hack the government down to the knees. But, a lot of people have been musing, I don't want to get too political, but a lot of people have been musing about the way some people are very, very upset about this change. People who are in the government but so far unaffected are very upset. And I think, and I might do a Hive post on this actually, it's just been rumbling around for a while, but I think what's happening is even if you're not personally targeted, the idea of a nation state, the idea of government, it needs to seem inevitable in order to support itself. So you get a young guy who's 20 and, well, do I want to be a policeman? Well, the state needs to be around for another 60 years in order for that to be a good and compelling decision, right? It needs to not be just chopped off at the knees when the new guy comes in and destroys it. So that, people talk about a safe government job, especially in America, they talk about a safe government job. And that's what it has going for it, right? Often it's not quite as well paid as a private sector, but it's a safe government job. Once you start undermining that, and actually you can just be, you can be, the deep state can be really hacked down to the bone at any moment, and a whole lot of people just go by the wayside. Well, then they're not willing to. People aren't willing to participate in this thing if they don't believe that it's inevitable. And from the other side too, I'm seeing memes of guys saying, "Oh, look, when April comes around, I'm just going to file an extension on my tax, and we'll just see if the IRS is still here in 12 months." Why would I pay tax to the IRS if there's a chance that Trump's just going to kill it? I'm just going to not pay. So we could expect if the IRS is around in April, there's going to be so many extensions filed because people are just waiting it out now. I can wait out the state. And if the state has people believing they can wait it out, then it will literally collapse under its own weight. So I'm really here for it. I'm strapped in. There is a good reason. A lot of freedom lovers don't understand why the parasites are panicking about this, and that really is why. Because the 300 when Leonidas throws the spear and he catches Xerxes in the cheek there, the god king Xerxes. The fact that he can bleed is terrifying. Then to his whole army, right? Because he's got this persona. I'm immortal. I'm the God King. I'm dripping in jewels. I'm taller than everybody. I've got my retinue. I've got a million soldiers behind me. But just the fact that he could be shown that he can bleed, then all of that confidence gets undermined, and that's what's going on now with Doge in the US. So yeah, lots of guys trying to get exposure to the US dollar. Eco Instant, you here, mate? I think you're muted. We don't have video, but I can see some presence there. Maybe some technical issues. It's like a seance. Maybe. Can you hear me? Are you there?
Is there anyone there? Knock 3 times if you can hear me.
Is there a guy with the chopping on a Ouija board? It's like, what's chicken keep coming back to life? You are there.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Hear you now.
Oh, good. Yeah. Okay. So there's no electricity, but I'm here. I got it just didn't work out here. I'll show you guys we're working with candlelight here.
Mm-hmm. I remember we had a day when I was up there too. We had a day with no electricity.
Yeah. It's just part of I was just loving what Matt was saying. I wouldn't mind riffing off of that if you guys can hear me all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you great, mate. Go for it.
Well, as somebody who opted out more than a decade ago now and have in various ways kind of maybe opted back in half a step here, half a step there, trying to get stuff done. I think the most important part of what's going on right now, this is the turning. We're in it. We're living in it. And that's really good. That's promising to me. It doesn't mean it won't happen, or couldn't happen, but I think the 5th generation warfare is maybe the replacement. Maybe we don't have to all die in a nuclear bomb. But I believe very strongly that the social contract is up for grabs right now. Trump's riding that energy just like any of us could be. I don't think it's Trump's fault, like Trump didn't do it. But Trump is the great champion, right? And I wrote an article about his initial contest with Colombia. I believe my president, Petro, here at Colombia did very well. I also believe that Trump played his part because what did Trump say the next day? Petro agreed, and every other leader in the region should be aware. Trump was just sending a message, he's just bitch slapping around. And I think after a month now, it does kind of seem like, is he still going to keep going this fast for a month? But I mean, there is a lot of work to do. And I love to see what Trump is doing. And I hope every leader and every local leader and every person, a community leader, would just state the truth in this moment, because the social contract is up for grabs. We all need to say, and what's right for Trump might not be the right move for Petro. Everybody's got to play the cards that they're dealt and speak honestly with that divine spark that God gave us in this moment. And so it's very exciting to watch. And I just hope everybody would also participate and not only watch, but be inspired and do in your local community. Be an Elon Musk to your local town council, or whatever it is in your life, This is the fourth turning, and I think we could get through it in a really positive way. I think so. Yeah, I think I'm optimistic still.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm enjoying every day. I'm waking up to new happy news, and it would be stuff that would be like a once in a decade win, except we're getting those once a day, which is just fantastic. So I've been thinking a lot about Australia and Australia's situation, where there is very much an appetite in this direction amongst the voting the voting class, but I guess the electorate. But I think we struggle. We have something called tall poppy syndrome, where we don't want anybody to big note themselves. If somebody starts succeeding, it's crabs in the bucket. Some people think this is a good thing, others not so much. But there's an innate Australian, oh, you think you're so good, right? So there's a part of that's part of our makeup, I guess. And so as much as we kind of want that same direction, or a lot of us do, there is also a unwillingness to bandy around one specific figurehead, right? And that's what Trump is. So this wasn't like a freedom movement. This was a Trump movement. And I think until Australia has a guy, one guy that's the guy, and he's leading a coalition or leading a group of smaller parties, we're just going to be
Clive Palmer and the Trumpet Party.
Exactly. So we've got basically losers who don't have charisma, right? We need some really charismatic. I'd love to see Alex Antic of the Liberal Party here in SA, but he's a senator and not a. I don't know. I get lost because it's not my religion. But I really we kind of, before any of this happens in Australia, we need to have a guy, somebody who's the catalyst, that central figure that then everyone could say, do we want to fix this problem? Let's get around him. And I don't see any contenders. There's nobody who's maybe that guy.
Peter Dutton.
Peter Dutton thinks that of himself. Yeah, he's talking about Doge, but he's ridiculous.
This is the most charismatic person I know.
We deserve it. We absolutely deserve it. And people are talking about bring Kevin Rudd home as ambassador. Bring him home. He's an embarrassment. But Australia is a circus. We should have a clown for an ambassador. He perfectly fits the role. That's exactly, he represents Australia as it stands really, really well.
That was actually Murdoch's cry at the time of the Rudd-Abbott election. Because he owns half the media. Packer owns half. and Murdoch owns the other half. For the Packer half, one day, all of his papers all around Australia, all of the leading state newspapers, the article was Australia needs Tony Abbott. And the next day, front page, full cover article, bring in the clown. And it was Kevin Rudd's photo. That's going back quite a ways.
Yeah. So we'll wait and see. But if it's good for Australia, there are Australians who are running for the exits and getting exposure to the greenback. That strengthens the greenback, weakens the Aussie dollar. I really feel like things have to get worse before Australia wakes up. I think things need to get substantially worse here before people really do anything about it. There's just so little curiosity here. But yeah, Eco Incident, how you been, mate? Talk to me. What's been going on?
I'm not sure he's with us right now.
Yeah, he's muted. Maybe battery problems.
He's muted.
What about you, Bob? What's new? Tell me about Mexico.
Yeah, everything's still fine here. 27, 28 degree winter days. Just still waiting for the application process to go through. So yeah, mostly just been working and.
How long does that usually take, Bob?
The problem at the moment is the recent change with the administration and reshuffling of the cabinet. I'm actually using a couple of guys. They're broker firm who recommended to me through a WhatsApp group that people I know people, and one of the guys used these guys, so they came highly recommended. But yeah, they're just saying that the reshuffling of the cabinet because the administration change is just delaying processes at the moment. Yeah.
There are time periods where it goes quick and there's time periods where it don't go. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So yeah, that'll take some pressure off over the next few years. 4 years temporary residency. Give me the freedom to travel next year when I get this year already. August this year, there'll be a bit of travel on the cards. Yeah.
Awesome. I'd love to know, like, I kind of feel my own Colombian perspective. I feel like my president passed the test, at least locally, and he turned inward and said, hey, we need to clean up our house. And but what has been the Mexican experience with Trump?
I'm sure that that 25% tariff for north and south of the border upset a lot of people, but Trump's from a business background. He's definitely not a diplomat. He's not a politician. So you start negotiating way above what you're willing to accept, and if you are negotiating with pussies, well, then you get more than you expected. But you start high. I think he's just testing the ground at the moment. Like a popular topic at the moment with most students from Europe is the US closing down bases and pulling resources out of Europe, and now they're all freaking out about Russia, and so the European countries' defence spending has had a nice little boom for the industrial military complex. But so that's apparently the topic of discussion around Europe at the moment is US pulling funds and resources and bases out of Europe. Yeah.
I'm super interested because I am optimistic, like we talked about with what Matt was saying, but also I have long been of the belief that there are multiple groups of infighting elites. This is not like one blanket corporation.
It goes with the personality, doesn't it? I mean, there would have to be infighting. That
I believe J.P. Morgan and even Jay Powell, I think what they've done is they've drained Europe. They're draining the gold right now. I think they're going to. I think the European Union is going to be the big loser. Trump's going to make a deal with Russia over the Arctic, and probably they're going to make maybe like a Pacific triumvirate: China, Russia, U.S. and say, okay, multipolar, but none of this brick shit, or maybe Trump will somehow join BRICS, but the dollar's got to be 35% of the basket. I mean, I'm thinking Trump could go laterally anyway, but I think they're going to turn the map upside down and Europe is going to be a big loser. That's kind of the way I'm seeing what Trump's team wants, because I think Trump is just the quarterback. He's not you know what I mean? There's an agenda, and I think the agenda is turned against the old money, weirdly liberal, transgender European, whatever that was.
Yeah.
I still think they're elites, but they're the better ones. We want them to win for sure, but we should also build our own communities in the meantime before maybe, because in 80 years, they're going to be just as terrible as these ones, probably. Our grandchildren will be fighting the oligarchy. Probably, right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm optimistic about a lot of things, but I don't think it's going to end up with unicorns and rainbows. I don't know. I mean, it's still going to be realism all the way down, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, transitioning between the Yugas is never a smooth process because there's always a paradigm shift involved, and whether the paradigm shift comes generationally or whether it comes as just a boom, like scattergun shatter, like some will get it, some don't. And then you've got more polarity, more division. Definitely interesting times.
So the big news that I'm hearing is that they're going to reprice gold. They're pulling all the gold. London is empty at the LBMA because all the gold they used to have was actually owned and claimed by other people. And when they audit Fort Knox, there's going to be more gold there than is on the paper. And the euro is going to go to 85 cents. That's what they're saying.
So who's
so
they?
The dollar maybe will. Well, gold price. Vince Lancy, Tom Luongo. There's kind of like a Cosmo podcast. What's his podcast? There's a couple of guys I listen to that are into this geopolitical banking, 5D chess kind of idea.
Yeah.
That the European bankers are going down and that I mean, we'll see what happens. They got to actually balance the budget. I was a little concerned because I heard that Elon's going to send us all checks, and I wonder if he's saved enough money yet.
Yeah, it would make sense too when you think of it, any sort of dynastic bloodline rule that each generation is going to get weaker and weaker because they never had to earn what was earned. It's been given to them and taken for granted, and a lot of the old school, really oldies have been dying. So it's like the next generation's making a move, maybe, and maybe that's why there's a power shift within.
Yeah, is there betting? Do they have betting markets on how much gold is actually going to be in Fort Knox? I think what's that crypto betting site that everybody's refers back to?
Is it Cloudbet?
No, it starts with a P, I reckon. Anyway, I'd be interested to see that because I reckon the idea that there's more gold in there than the 5,000 tons that are meant to be. Man, if there's more gold in there, you would win some decent money, I reckon, because you'd get long odds on that bet. It's not something I ever contemplated. I thought either it's empty or there's half the gold there or whatever. I just imagine being a night watchman there, though. You spent 70 years patrolling the perimeter, watching the place like a hawk, and then somebody comes along and opens it up, and there's nothing there, and there's been nothing there the whole time. Your entire career, just pointless.
Yeah, my money would be on empty.
Yeah, but it's worth that long shot. Maybe. I mean, if the odds are good enough, put $100 on there being 10,000 tons instead of 5. Give it a shot.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe the percentages would be like the odds are 5% that there's more, but maybe it's more likely it's 30%. And so the bet could still be good, even if it's not the most likely scenario.
Mm.
Yeah. So
I'll have
what's
to
happening?
look into it. It's definitely interesting. Things are moving. That's the most important part. The world is in flux.
Yeah.
That's right, and it's funny with our even with our podcast here, what we talk about, because on one hand I'm like, yeah, it's current affairs and what do people feel and how do people think. It's great to watch it in the moment, but if we want our content to be kind of evergreen, anything we're talking about now, even 6 months, podcasts from 6 months ago, it's like, well, it's already completely out of date. Everything that was being discussed because
But
things
we
are
can refer
moving
back and go,
so
hey,
quickly.
we were right.
Yes, yeah, we can. It's a good point. Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask that question because, I mean, ostensibly we were going to do some D-City something, but, I could also talk this type of stuff every week. I don't even need to prepare, just randomly. This is the stuff that I consume throughout the week, news, as you call it. But I believe very strongly, it's my pin post on Twitter and it's my most recent Peak D collection, that only philosophy can save us. I do believe that because there, in my mind, whether how many groups or teams there are fighting about however many details, there's two camps philosophically. There's a Malthusian, anti-human philosophy, and there's I guess I would call it Christian, but at least we'll call it a pro-human, where humans are a creative, productive force, or at least they can be, as opposed to necessarily a cancer parasitic force. I believe that's the main problem. And so as long as enough positive people participate in rewriting the new world, I think we're good. We'll be all right. Because I plan to live another couple decades in this world. I hope, if Lord willing. But if we stay asleep and let maybe other people write it, maybe it won't be enough. And so, I hope, Bob, you got a job. You teach students, and you almost get exclusively to steer the conversations in positive or negative directions. I was a teacher. Notice, for example, one of the things that I identified really easily is it's really easy to complain about stuff. It's so easy, like, oh man, this traffic. Oh man, this weather. But it also is easy to connect about how beautiful a tree is or a bird or, like if you just change your mind about what you talk about, maybe that's enough to add your, what do you think about that, Bob? Adding positive energy where we can.
Yeah, I try to splash a bit of color on things. I was mentioned previously in the other episode with my stats for 2024. Most of my students were from Japan. Second was Turkey, and third was Saudi Arabia. And I just the anthropologist comes out and man, just I love the opportunity. You can watch get information off the news, or other documentaries, TV shows, but I'm actually talking to a person living in a country and they're sharing their own. Sometimes we get deep into religion and politics in our discussions. I just love that insight to a completely different culture, where we really have no idea what's actually going on in our scope on the international front. Like I love the work that I do. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And so how enriching. And is it, are you achieving your goals? Are you getting ahead of things now?
Yes. I've been working a little bit harder lately because I've got the residency coming up, so I need a bunch of cash for that. And I spent New Year's Eve and New Year's Day in the dentist chair. So that set me back a little bit, but it was necessary. I had to have root canal work done on one of my canines. So yeah, I've just been, but again, I'm working more than I would really want to be working, but it's just temporary to get this one stage. But I like the fact that I can. If I need a little bit more money than usual, I can do that. Whereas normally, like
That's great.
I have a pretty casual routine that allows me to live very comfortably here, and it doesn't take a lot of effort. But yeah, now I've got a goal, need something quickly. Yeah, I've just been doing a lot of extra hours. Yeah.
I'm fascinated by medical tourism. Could you compare just relative pricing, like whatever you paid in
I was
Mexico
shocked,
versus
man.
what you might have
I
paid in
was shocked.
Australia?
In Australia, I would say, mate, it was in the 90s, I think. Yeah, I got out of the Navy in 1995. Somewhere between 95 and 2000. Okay. I had to have root canal work done. So there was one of my molars. I had the root canal work done and I had the crown fitted. Paid $1,200 for the root canal work and $1,200 for the crown. So $2,400 in the 90s. Had same thing done this time, went in, had the root canal work done, then had to leave it a couple of days, or was it the next day? The next day, and then went back and they put in the support because it was a canine, so you can't get a cap. So they had put like a little support bar. All of that was like $350. So, and that's Australian,
Wow.
not US.
Yeah.
So a tenth
So it's
of what
even
I paid
lower
20
in
years
US.
ago in Australia.
Yeah, I just
I think
ignore stuff. I've got a tooth that's broken, been about 5 years, I reckon. I got a busted tooth, and it's all like most of it's gone, like the outside, but there's the root's still there, and I've just done nothing with it. It doesn't hurt, but I know I'd be up for $3,000 for a root canal. I even talked to the dentist about just pulling it, just getting it out, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we don't really like to do that." And he just did a temporary fix up a few years ago, and I just after that all fell away and perished. I just haven't done it. It just sits there. I'd love to get it taken out.
Go visit Bob and get our teeth cleaned.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on the list of things that I'd get done if I take a quick trip to Thailand and all of that. I mean, if I end up if the Dow decides they need to send the chairman to Panama to sign some stuff, I might I might take the opportunity to throw myself in a cheaper chair and get some stuff done while I'm over there. But yeah, it's ridiculous. We got a letter the other day that each of our 3 kids are eligible for $1,000 worth of dental care each, and yeah,
that's like a filling or 2 fillings.
It's ridiculous,
yeah.
But it's so controlled, right? It's so tightly controlled. There was a guy in the US who he was working out of his garage doing dentist work for he qualified dentist, but he for whatever he couldn't from another country or something set up in his garage, and there were people queued up around the block to finally I've got enough money, I can get this done, and of course he got shut down. The cops came and kicked his door in and seized all his stuff and arrested him, and you know, when you read it in the newspaper, like you said, Bob, with the newspaper twisting opinion, it's all this reckless money grubbing, you know, unsafe conditions, unaudited, uninspected, unregistered, and it hits all these trigger points in people's minds where they go, "This is crazy. How are we letting people operate like this?" I'm so glad the police are there to go and arrest him. The real greedy ones are the ones who make sure that you can't go and see this guy. It should be up to the individual. It should be up to the adult.
Yeah.
What relationships do they want to have? I want to go to somebody who's unqualified and unregulated and unregistered, and that should be on me. It's my mouth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No personal sovereignty.
No.
You are a product.
Yeah, and we know what's best for you, and that's that overarching vibe, I guess, is we know what's best for you, and you don't. And there's a level of expert worship there where people they don't want to take accountability for their own lives, the outcome of their own decisions, so they just defer to experts all the time. Well, I'll defer to this expert, this expert, this expert. you got a kid who's, autistic, dosed up with Ritalin, bouncing off the walls because you went and trusted all the experts, and the experts are looking after themselves, not you and your kid.
Yeah.
So
and of course,
I think
expert, X is an unknown quantity, spurt is a drip under pressure. Yeah.
I like to say I'm an expert. So yes, I'm not fully qualified on whatever this thing is, but I know enough about experts and the way they operate to be very, very cautious when interacting with people who are
experts,
who've passed all the memorization and rote repeating, vomit all over the desk. Yeah, I know enough to
Yeah. So I was just thinking in the break there, Alex, like you popped on sort of mid-conversation type thing. So we never actually introduced you. I realized, most of the people who watch this show, I'm sure they would know you. But for someone out there thinking, like, who is this guy? Who is this guy?
Well, let's bring the light on the subject. So I'm Eco. My name's Alex. They call me Eco Instant, and I have been around these freedom technologies for 7 years now, and I'm still going strong. I said to somebody recently.
Not looking good there, Alex. I think we're about to lose you.
There's a better place than Hive. Maybe I already would have heard. Something is active Alt too, but how about now?
We
That's better,
lost
right?
most of all of that. We got like the beginning and the end.
Yeah, freedom tech for the last 7 years. It might be worth just if you switch off video, so we'll just listen to you. You might find that's going to come through clearer, because it seems like when you're frozen, we get the audio really good, but when it's trying to do both, it's just too much load.
It could be. I'm also on the local data plan, and it's Saturday night, so I'm sure they're all Instagramming each other.
Yeah,
you sound much better. You sound much better now.
Yeah, because the video takes up a bit of bandwidth, so without the video, your audio is much clearer, mate. Yeah,
and you're the
freedom fighter.
Yeah, freedom fighter. I escaped, and I actually lived homesteading for a number of years before I found Steam. And to me, it was just, and now Hive, it was just a solution from having to host my own website, which now we do host a website. But the power of the blockchain and maybe all the blockchains we've interacted with is infinite, right? It's an experimental edge, and I associate a lot of free and open source software development with the things I'm doing with permaculture and the infinite species of plants in God's creation, or however you want to say it. Like the number of species that we've identified as humans continues to grow, and we try to fit them together into systems that work well together. Well, it's kind of the same with these technologies. One of the cool ways that we've learned to do this as humans is to play, is to gamify. Now is a very popular business word. And so I've maybe lived in the gamification space where people are experimenting next levels of gamification for as long as anybody. And Matt is one of those guys that's been there for maybe just as many years. I don't know, Bob, how many years would you say you've been playing with these technologies?
I think about 7 years. I've been on the blockchain. There is a way to check, because I'm really not that sure, but I'm guessing it's got to be at least 7 years.
That's about the time frame. We talk about in the 70s they said it was changing to the age of Aquarius, and then the Mayans declared the world ended in 2012. So now we're officially in the new world, about 5 years into the new era, some of these technologies, Bitcoin came out in 2009, the white paper, and they started experimenting with it. But really, I think this money technology and whatever's going to happen with Bretton Woods, I don't think they're going to do just Bitcoin. I think they're going to tokenize the mountains, and they're going to all the gold and everything they can put their hands on. They're going to, collateralize. But Bitcoin's going to be one of those things, and in fact, probably other cryptocurrencies as well. I think the FTX token is on the strategic digital asset fund list from Trump. The what was that token called? FTM, maybe it was FTX token. The U.S. has a stake in it, in their strategic assets. So, but what Trump is doing, and Elon and Putin and all these people, they're playing a game. And I think and I hope that we decide that we don't want to take that game nuclear. But then what is the game? The game is just hard playing negotiations, maybe, when somebody wants to sell their Splinterlands cards in a moment of crisis and there's no liquidity on the market, right? And they go in the back room and they negotiate for, 30% or, burn value plus 10% or whatever. I think a lot of banks are going to be in that same situation. They won't have Splinterlands cards to negotiate with, but everybody's going to be looking around at what does collateral mean in this new age. And I don't know about meme coins, but I think there's a lot of digital assets that are going to make the cut as collateral, and maybe even pristine collateral.
Any particular coins you're thinking of there?
Well, Bitcoin, obviously. I'm not a big fan of Ethereum, but in the EVM family, you've got a number, and they have some value because people are transacting, and that includes Ethereum and BNB and some other ones, Arbitrum, AVAX, Polygon. There's a whole bunch of those type of ones, and then of course we live on Hive, and I love Hive. I've been activating with some podcasts, the Hive channel, and I'd actually like to maybe interview you, Bob, on one episode. Have you in as a straight man?
Yeah, I'll be down for some interviews. I always enjoy it. I always manage to think of something to say.
You Australians, guys, you have a wit about you. And I don't know that it's from Australia, but it's a particular wit. And maybe not all Australians even have it. But it's a lateral thinking, and so it fits very well with the down under motif, because the jokes come out of left field for like an American. I don't know. You guys have a funny sense of humor, I think.
I think mine was mostly just growing up with British comedy, which is very witty. I would categorize most American humor as slapstick humor, whereas British humor was about wit. So I grew up with a lot of those old school, like considered today classics of British comedy, and I guess it just sort of rubs off. What's your excuse, Matt?
No, I'm the same. Dad raised me on the Goon Show and goody yum yum, and obviously Monty Python's big factor there. But even like Spike Milligan, was a Spike Milligan book. I think it was Hitler, His Part in My Downfall, or something. Spike Milligan writing about his war experiences, and I just remember my sides absolutely aching. Then there's Mum got me onto James Herriot, a UK vet, sharing his stories about being a young vet in a like a Welsh countryside somewhere, and it sounds very kind of dull, but when you actually get right in there and some of the crotchety old farmers that you had to deal with and the like, just great. So yeah, heaps of background, and I think a lot of Aussie humour is really just British humour. Half of our ABC public broadcaster content when I was growing up came direct from the BBC. So you're getting Doctor Who, you're getting whatever the UK was. So we're very much a colony in that respect. We never told the UK to get lost. We never fired the king. So we kind of inherited their sense of humour as well as their TV shows.
Well, what's going on right now? The UK seems to be, I mean, totally rolling over. Like they don't even know how to handle their domestic stuff. Well, how does that feel that you supposedly are underneath them in the hierarchy?
Yeah, well, again, it's not my religion. I see statism as a religion, and that's not mine. My faith is Christianity. I'm not in my mind Australian. I'm from the continent, not the country, because the continent's real and the country's make believe. Again, just part of a religion that I'm no longer a part of. So, to my mind, I don't care if it's the Queen or the King or anyone, or Sausage Fingers or whoever else. By the same token, I don't feel the need to, rally against, burning down Canberra or assassinating the King or all of that stuff. It's like, no, that's still playing into that religion. It's just saying, well, I'm opposed to that religion rather than just I don't believe in it. So I'm just straight up anarchist. I think the end of the nation state is nigh. We'll probably shift to city states before too long, just because I can see a mayor somewhere deciding that he doesn't want to be part of the country that he's in anymore, and that the entire city will be much better off if it becomes its own state. And that only has to happen somewhere, anywhere in the world, and then it can catch on as an idea. I think technology's delivered a lot of that, where we don't need all the supply lines and railway tracks and all of the internet and electricity and all of the stuff that, you look at the Snowy Hydro scheme in Australia, where it's such a sprawling country, and you need support with the telegraph, and you need support with all of these different technologies to solve so many of these problems. You live in a house that's got solar on the roof, you're collecting your own rainwater, you've got your internets from satellites in the sky. You don't need to work somewhere else, you can work from home. So it's becoming, each household is becoming its own autonomous unit, meaning that a city just eventually won't need the support of its broader country anymore. And I can see that being the direction that we go in, a move away from the nation state. And once that starts, I don't see it stopping or reversing it really anyway.
Whoa. First of all, I love the way you deal with the king, right? It's not my religion, I mean, I guess they like that. But there's no need to fight against it, But it just always reminds, I didn't vote for you. That's not how you become king.
Monty Python, yeah.
Ceremony.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Some watery tart lobbed a scimitar at you. Yeah, Python's wonderful. But that's my take on it. I'm not interested in playing their games. I have a driver's license because I don't want the hassle of being, one of the religious zealots throwing me in jail for caging me for not having one. So there's levels of, I guess, cooperation or even collaboration. And I wrote a post on this saying how I hope that my grandchildren are ashamed of me. I hope that when they look back and look at the ways that I cooperated with the state, they'll see, hopefully the world's moved on so much that I look like a villain for cooperating as much as I have. I mean, to my mind, it's minimal. I cooperate less than what I think a lot of other people do, and with less enthusiasm and the like. But I kind of hope that by the time my grandchildren are adults, that they look back at the very concept of a involuntary governance as repugnant as we look at slavery now, and maybe they'll view me the same way as people currently today view the people who owned slaves way back then, and so I'm ashamed to have that in my family tree, in my family line. I don't mind taking the hit if that means society's moved so far away from the concept of government. So you can play your silly games without me.
And win them stupid prizes.
Yes, indeed. But yeah, that's my sense of humor. Where my sense of humor's come from. I got a very funny dad. He's He's very conservative, very Christian, very kind and warm and caring. But if there's a laugh to be had, he will poke the bear. He will absolutely poke the bear because it's just worth it, right? It's worth it to get the laugh. If there's a punchline there, he won't not say it, right? which is fantastic. But obviously has got him in trouble over the years. But yeah, I definitely say my sense of humour has come from my old man, and I'm glad for it.
Rico, are you with us still?
Oh yeah. I was gonna give you.
No,
I love the Monty Python references though,
Yeah.
and I guess that makes sense that it's so British. I don't know. I just find that the average British person does not make me laugh, and maybe that's just my personal experience, But Australians do.
Maybe we've just refined it a little.
Well, the Brits are probably leaving it up to the experts. They're saying, well, you go watch David Mitchell or Hugh Laurie or John Cleese. Hugh Laurie's great. Mitchell and Webb are fantastic. Their Peep show that they did, and a few others. The Are We the Baddies? When he's looking at his Nazi cap, it's been shared around a lot. Yeah, Hugh Laurie, a little bit of Fry and Laurie. They've done some great stuff, Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie, over the years. But yeah, the Brits, they do some funny stuff. Pink Panther. Even going so far as back as The Plank. I used to love The Plank as a kid. No scripting. There's no words in it. It's just a couple of guys going to the hardware store for a plank and trying to get it home. But very, very slapstick and hilarious. Just great. So yes, British comedy. I'm sure there's heaps I'm forgetting, but that's definitely where we get it from. And then, as I got older, then we started getting the US stuff, the sitcoms and the like. Friends was a big one for me. And I look at it now and I think, I love watching this show because I care about the characters so much, but the jokes aren't really that funny.
Yeah, I found out a lot. I didn't really get into that sort of phase. The Friends, the Cheers, Seinfeld, all of that. But I've checked it out of curiosity. Like just downloaded the season and just watched usually just 2 or 3 episodes. And after that, I'm thinking maybe it had some value back then, but today, just not the same.
Yeah, well, 95 to 95 was Friends. So the Twin Towers were right in the middle of that. It's set in New York. And I think I was 17 around then. So that was, we're talking real formative years. I'm leaving high school. What's my life going to be like? What's dating going to be like? So it felt like it was instructional. Like it's like I can learn from this, right? And they're very glamorous people. They're easy on the eyes. How do I navigate work and life and relationships? And I kind of feel like they were looking at it now and watching it again. I can see ways that I think we were being led astray very deliberately. But I can also see why it was so appealing to 17-year-old me. But yeah, now I'll walk past when it's on, and I'll sit and watch it for a few minutes, and feel like I'm catching up with some old friends. But it's not really funny, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're back with us, EK?
I think so. Yeah, all the problems are me, but I'm having fun, guys. Remembering some of these Monty Python things, for example, I feel like they were maybe even formative for me as well. But except my parents didn't show them to me. That was the smut. Like, oh, I got Life of Brian. Like, don't tell mom and dad.
Well, actually, I saw Life of Brian at the cinema. I would have been somewhere between 12 to 13, and my grandmother from a mother's side of the family was visiting from Ireland, and we were just in the city, just you got doing the touristy thing, I guess, and I knew my way around. So we were just walking around the city of Perth. Let's see a movie. And the cinema's called the Capri, so it wasn't like a big one like Hoyt's or the big chains. We went in and it was The Life of Brian, and she was just like, she was in a state of shock. I loved it. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. But yeah, she had no idea what none of us really knew much about it. But yeah, it was pretty shocking for her. So this is at the cinema when it first came out.
I think the Romans Go Home graffiti, just that snippet where he's painting it on the wall, and then John Cleese corrects his grammar, and it's sort of school teacher style, but with the threat of death, and then okay, do it 100 times, and then he finally finishes, and there's a couple of Roman soldiers, and he's like, showing them like he's proud of it, realizing the communication breakdown that these soldiers don't know that he's been told to do this.
Yeah.
It's so funny. There's so many scenes like that, but even, you say, okay, well, blasphemy, that's not new, but I still sing to this day, always look on the bright side of life. Like it sticks. It's not blasphemous. There's something beautiful in there about humanity.
Yeah.
Yep. Just remember that the last laugh is on you, right? That's great. That's perfect.
Yeah. And even that spaceship scene in the middle of just randomness. It's like, what? It's just so random. It's just, I think that's one of their greatest strengths is just the randomness. They just, because a lot of modern comedy runs off of a formula. This plus this plus this equals funny, and it's really not. I think that the spontaneity and the unexpectedness of an event is what really gives comedy value.
Yeah, I feel like the Python crew in particular, they never respected your title or your crown or your throne. They kind of mock.
Everyone was fair game.
Yeah, but they also it always felt like they were respecting my intellect as well. When I'm watching it, I felt like they'd throw stuff in there and trust that you would get it, that you would get the reference, that you would make that connection there. So they'll poke at your holy cows, but they'll also respect you enough as a viewer to believe that this joke is going to land, that this is funny enough, that this is. And if you don't get it, then that's your problem, not ours. We're not going to work down to the lowest common denominator, which I think happens a lot with. I look at TV now, and I think commercial TV. Literally, the only people still watching commercial TV and watching ads are the people who haven't worked out how to stream or haven't worked out how to get onto YouTube or some alternate, ad blocker, whatever. They're just still sitting at the idiot box, changing channels occasionally, watching the cricket or the footy or what have you.
Paying for the privilege.
Yeah, and with in the UK, with the TV licenses, but I also think like the programming is going to reflect that, right? Where you get some really nuanced, sharp stuff going on streaming platforms. Not all of it, obviously, and often that's its own thing. But the commercial TV stations, they're just fighting for those last few scraps of the people that aren't smart enough to interact with the internet. And I kind of feel like you can tell that when you watch some of the shows that are on there. Dog rescue, that here's a couple and they've come to the pound to adopt a dog, and we're going to go into the background and interviews and all this. And it's such an emotional level, not an intellectual level now. The TV shows are just it's stupid people watching and stupid people on both sides of the camera.
Yeah, and even like modern series that come out, you can tell it's intended for a much younger audience as well. And every now and then they have to stop and they have a conversation with each other explaining the script in case you're sitting at home and are not following the script, which is basic as anyway, but they have to keep explaining the plot line to each other so that some people in the audience, because
they're assuming you're scrolling Instagram at the same time and paying a third of your attention to each of three different things that you've got going on.
Of course, that's why. That's why, yes.
But if you just want to actually just sit and enjoy a show and totally focus on that, then it does start feeling very patronizing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow, so true. Yeah, and I watch less things. Mostly I wait till series are complete. Like recently we watched Shogun. It finished. I was recommended, so we just downloaded all of them and watched them at our own pace and really enjoyed it. You know, I can't wait for season two,
I did exactly
if
the
it ever
same
comes
thing.
out. You know,
Yeah, Shogun was
and
excellent. The exploration of him not recognizing his own power in his household, revolving around the pheasant and the like, where he's
yeah,
learning the importance of his own orders. There's no in this culture. There's no just throw away, just say something, and people aren't going to know that you weren't being serious. Serious. There's none of that nuance there. Your words are you're the ruler of this house, and your words are your words. Be careful with them. I thought that was really poignant, that section. I did try to read the book Shogun, but I only got a couple of, I think, probably 2 chapters in. This is years ago, and with that whole boiling that guy, I read the book and I was like, oh no, no. I'm not enjoying this mental imagery, so I'm just going to move on and do other things. But happily, the show didn't focus on that for too long. But yeah, it was a great show. I highly recommend.
Hmm.
I love that scene a lot because, I mean, I believe it was one of the untouchable class that broke the rule and then committed suicide. And so he is then thinking this is terrible. He caused the guy's death. And the lady's like, wait, he redeemed himself, and he got a better death. It was just sociologically very smart show. And, like, you don't get that every day. And you'd never find it on television.
Yeah, totally agree. Great watch, and that's just the part of it. And that I think the technology's clashing as well, where they're looking at cannons and rifles, and how is this going to play in, and swords are so much a part of how we operate, and now there's this new threat on the horizon. Do we adopt the new ways, or do we stick to the old ways that worked? And yeah, I think culturally, just the massive difference between, you think we're made the same, 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 nose, but there's such a difference there that you just, when you start thinking you're getting your head wrapped around it, you're really not. And then you think, what about these other cultures like the North Senegalese, who aren't even as like at least the Japanese had back then. You'd go and say, well, there's a city here, so they have this. There's a level of internal stability that their society has achieved. Right, that has to be based on peace, peaceful transacting, peaceful interacting with others, whatever that is, because otherwise you get destruction, then you can't build anything, you can't grow a population. So just knowing that there's a city there, you sail over the horizon, there's a city, okay, I know things about these people, I can in time learn their language, I can in time trade with them. But then you think something like the North Senegalese, who just kill on sight anybody who sets foot on their island, what can we really, like, if were we to kidnap one of those guys and bring him over here and learn his language and interview him, and like how much of a gulf would there be between him and us? I don't know where I'm going with that, but it's fascinating to think about the implications of assuming that just because somebody else has 2 arms and 2 legs and a nose, that we're going to be on the same page. We really, really aren't. And that goes to the Malthusian and the pro-human as well. Like we're so, men and women, there are so many differences there.
We see that all the time with the colonial period, invading other countries to steal our resources, hugely, mostly based on advancement of technology. I mean, when the British invaded Australia, for example, again, horses, rifles, cannons versus Stone Age level inhabitants, not even bronze or copper. Stone Age level, like, of course, it's not going to go well. And this is our entire history. Pick any continent. This is our legacy. We need to change that.
You take it a step further. 2 arms, anyone with 2 arms, 2 legs, a nose, and a keyboard. now has to get along. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and do we know who's real and who's AI? I was having a chat with Grok 3 the other day, and that's just insane. That stuff. I just like pulling information from various different places. I'd challenge it and asking it different things, and it was. I can see a lot of people disappearing down that rabbit hole. I was talking to one of the hivers actually on Twitter, and she lost her husband about a year ago, 18 months ago, after a long illness. And she's been chatting to AI, and I said, if you want to, if you've been burnt by a relationship that ended, either you were left or the other party died, the AI is just so appealing because it won't just get hit by a bus. It will always be there for you and always interested in what you want to talk about. I'm discussing things and raising things with Grok, but normally a conversation is give and take, right? I got to hear about the stuff that you want to talk about. You got to hear about the stuff I want to talk about. Talking to AI, it's 100% what you want to talk about. It's 100. You're the entire focus of the conversation, and it just plays along. And I can see a situation where a lot of us get lost in that. That Noah Yavari, whatever his name is, that he looks like Kif from Futurama. He's one of these creeps from the World Economic Health.
Yes,
One.
anti-human
that
guy.
guy. Yeah, he talks about video games and drugs. Like that's what the unproductive, the useless eaters will do when AI and automation takes over. It does everything for us. We'll just get the useless eaters to just play video games and take drugs, and that's how they'll fill their time. And I think even just chatting to AI, it's almost like more interesting than a video game, depending on your personal predilections. But I felt like if I just keep doing this, it's so easy. If I kept doing this and I didn't have to type and I could just chat to it all day, there's so many different ways that can go. There's a guy I follow who's making a AI. I don't want to go into detail because we might get demonetized on YouTube, but adult stuff that talks back to you. Like Her. With what's his the movie Her with Scarlett Johansson and Joaquin Phoenix. I can just see a future where a lot of people get lost in that black hole.
Well, we should all grow some tomatoes in our garden just to make sure.
Yeah, and even you're talking about like what's real, what's AI. Then you add the CGI to that, and you look at that whole period during the Biden administration with snippets all over the media of interviews, and like it's never the same person. So there's some people saying, "Oh, he's a stand-in," and then others saying there was the mask, and then there's one where you can see the mask line. Like, so when the president is on television announcing something, how do we know that is the president announcing something?
Well, yeah, and I'm pretty sure, just based on some old guy's analysis, that there was at least 3 Bidens.
Okay.
There was this one guy, he called him Daddy Longlegs, because there was just one that was like 20 centimeters taller than the other 2, and he was just a really long, lanky guy, and it was so obvious. So what was the point of making it so obvious in that moment? Was that a tear in the fabric of reality, or what was that?
Or just deliberately create divides in community? Because as soon as you do something like that, there's going to be, yes, it's real versus no, it's not real. Just another divide.
To make it sound
while
crazy.
they laugh. Sorry, what was that?
Yeah, just make you sound crazy. Something to fight about over Thanksgiving that isn't a real issue.
Yeah, and another thing to fight about and be concerned about that's actually not important. So you don't notice what's actually happening that is important.
So where do we go from here? Eco, what are your predictions? Give me by the time Trump's out, what do you think is going to change with the world? I'm out there saying the end of the nation state. What's your thinking?
I believe, I don't think the nation state, I do think we're in a transition period. Probably Westphalian sovereignty will be redefined, but I kind of see first geographical clumping. I do think Trump wants a land bridge to Alaska. I don't think he would mind Greenland very much. I think he'd love to have a little bit of Greenland. Um, but I believe that the economy is still in a rough shape. So we might get through this year, but I could also see a bank run somewhere in October. Now, which geographical area that hurts worse? But I think over the new year, we're going to see the Bretton Woods 4, a new, uh, if it is a basket, we'll see. I think they're going to maybe reprice gold along the way. And now the dollar will be backed by all the minerals in the Rocky Mountains and the gold. And, the ruble will be backed by the oil reserves of Russia. And so I think we're going to see over, whether that's just this year or if it's over the next 4 years, we're going to see a rebase of fake money back to commodities. What does your economy actually produce? And how that goes, I think, is going to be very interesting. And I do think it depends a lot. I'm a big believer that there's a lot of good and promising open source technology, and that it's very hard to put that back in the box as long as there's thinking humans also using it. As long as we're not all using only Grok, but also the open llama. As long as we're all playing together, some people have more power, some people have more money, some people have more capital, right? But as long as we're all playing the same game, I think it's going to be very hard for them to get it back. Whoever the elites are, I think it's going to be very hard to put it back in the box. But
And on that, while it's out of the box,
Yeah.
we're going to get cut off in just a few seconds. So I
next
used the
week,
free version
next
of
month.
Zoom. So thanks for popping back on again, sharing more. Like this is about you, as this is behind the avatar. So thanks for coming on, sharing with yourself there. We'll be back next week with 164, which will be an end of season spending episode. And we might have that 500 Gladius cases to open. We'll have to see. All right, we'll see you then. Thanks for joining us on 163 of Bob Fett. Peace out. Yes.